Good morning, everyone. This is Thad from the Reference and Readers Advisory Department at the Rawlings Library in Pueblo, Colorado. And um, thanks for joining me for another program. A little bit of a curveball today. Going to be doing something different. Nothing, at least today, in any way related to tie-dye. Um, this is something I want to try out called Food Time, and maybe just do a monthly kind of what I kind of do in the kitchen. And I don't proclaim to be a great cook or anything. It's definitely maybe a borderline hobby, but it is something I like to have a little fun with and try different things. And uh, this entry of Food Time, so over the summer, or kind of late spring, early summer, I kind of started to become very fascinated with the wok. And my sister sent me one for my birthday, and it's almost become almost at least once a week thing that I've started to use, and it's really kind of opened the doors for different styles of cooking. Um, right off the bat, I'll tell you the thing I love about it the most is because you're cooking with such a high heat, it really cooks things quickly. And um, if you have everything prepared in advance, and which for me is an issue because kind of when I cook, I kind of prep slash cook it kind of all together, and I think it kind of causes me to take longer. But with the wok, when you have everything prepared and you're using that high heat, it really allows things to cook quickly. So this recipe, I'll go ahead and get the video started, and I'm just going to narrate over this. Um, I muted the sound on these videos since it started getting real smoky with the wok. I kind of started coughing a lot, and it's um, a little disruptive to the video, I think. But this is a recipe. So part of since I've started getting into the wok. I've started watching different like YouTube channels, and there's specifically one. It's a cooking school out of I think they're in the UK, and they're called the School of Wok. And let's see, I think I forgot to switch screens, so let's back up here. Yeah, because I think you're still looking at me. Sorry. Okay. Okay, and it's called the School of Wok, and he does a section of videos every week that he calls Wok Wednesdays. But he has a lot of really cool and, in some cases, pretty simple recipes. And this is kind of based on one he did. It was an egg and tomato dish. Um, I'm more or less following what he did, except I'm adding chilies to it. The first time I did this dish, I used shishito peppers, which I think is a little softer. They didn't have any when I went to the store, and I didn't feel like hunting them down or going out to the county, which is where I'd get them in the past. And um, so I used serranos, which, if you know your peppers, is significantly hotter than a jalapeno, which is hot enough. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think I overdid it on the serranos. I have a pretty high tolerance for heat, and the heat piece didn't bother me, but it definitely kind of bothered my system afterwards. But so in the future for using the serranos, and as you can see, I'm not de-seeding them too, so that's also adding to that. Um, but the flavor that you get from them is it's really nice. Um, and so, like I said, I think I overdid it, and I used 8 serranos. Probably use half that next time, if even that, maybe 2. um, and then I have 1 whole yellow onion here, and just kind of slicing it into thin slices. Um, the way it works with the egg and everything, the thin slices, it's just a nice complement. Um, and so then, yeah, gonna slice the other half of that egg, or not egg, half of the onion. And I am a big fan of the flavor combination of onion and eggs. I know it's some folks aren't really into it, but I think it really pops, and I just think it's delicious. But anyways, so now I have I think I got 2 large tomatoes, and I'm just them into, or cutting them into, each tomato into 8 wedges. And the high heat of the wok, well, I'll explain that when show the video where I add the tomatoes. Um, the best is if you can get your hands on some homegrown tomatoes. My coworker Sharon had given me some from her garden, and I used those the first time I did this dish, and holy cow! I mean, homegrown tomatoes are delicious in itself, but then add them to this dish, and they're just on a whole other level of flavor. And real quick, I want to explain here, um, and I don't have it real organized, but one thing I picked up from that School of Wok page, he has something that he calls a wok clock. Um, so he kind of has all of his ingredients for the dish all ready and prepared. Real quick, before I continue with that wok clock piece, just I have my eggs there, and add a little sesame oil and then a little teriyaki. That just adds some added flavor and gives a nice sweetness to the whole dish. But anyways, you want to have all your ingredients kind of set up almost like a clock, and you kind of progress through that. Mine's a very rough clock there. I guess as long as they're kind of separated and organized, that's the main thing. But the wok clock idea is really helpful for if you're first getting into the wok. So now we'll do the second part of this. And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So what I'm doing, I have my wok, and one thing you want to make sure is that your wok is well seasoned. Um, you want to use for seasoning it, you want to use a high heat oil. I used grapeseed oil, but as far as for cooking the dish, I'm using olive oil. I pretty much for cooking exclusively use olive oil. Right, I do. That is the only, well, and the little sesame oil. But yeah, you want to crank it up. Yeah, the key to wok cooking is the high heat, and you want to get that cranked up and get that oil to start bubbling a little bit. And I usually wait for it to even start to smoke a little bit too, just kind of moving that around. One thing I did not do, but if your wok has a nice non-stick built to it, it's okay. But sometimes I kind of swish the oil around the sides of the wok. But anyway, so I took my bowl of egg there, and just go ahead and add it to the hot oil. And then if you do get into wok cooking, I definitely recommend getting specific wok tools. I got this 3-pack. It has the wok spatula, and then it has a little skimmer, which is good for doing kind of fried things in the wok. And then it had a ladle as well. But these are specifically designed for the wok. And when I first received the wok, I just tried with my regular utensils, and it's hard because of the contour of the wok. Like a regular spatula just kind of struggles in there. And the thing that's great about these as well is that they're kind of have a longer handle, and it really allows you to have a good control on what's in the wok. And so kind of cook the egg pretty much all the way through, maybe not quite all the way done. And what I'm doing now is just pouring it in a bowl and setting it aside. Um, and then still have little pieces of egg in there, which is a-okay. And you can see them kind of pop on the hot non-stick surface there. And so now, yeah, just letting that really get hot for a second. And what I'm going to do first is add, let's skip ahead a little bit, add the onion and the chilies first. And you want to be real careful when adding vegetables, or really, really almost anything, because since you're working with such high heat in oil, you can really it'll pop on you, and so you really want to be careful putting your ingredients into the wok. I've already had a couple nasty oil burns, and so yeah, really be careful when you're using a wok. But once you get your vegetables in there, you can kind of give them a little toss like that. And I haven't mastered the really cool over the top wok toss that you might like see from a professional chef, but kind of working on it. But yeah, kind of let those sit on one side, but kind of move them around a little too. And then yeah, kind of shaking it back and forth like that really helps distribute that heat through the vegetables. And you can see as you're doing that slight tossing um, that it is cooking those vegetables. And um, let's see, we'll skip ahead a little bit here, just a little more tossing and moving around. And so now what I'm doing is creating a spot for the tomatoes, and I want to have a nice hot spot ready for them. So once they touch the wok, they kind of start to sear. Because you want a nice little seared texture on the outside of the tomatoes. And so just kind of want to let that sit for a moment. Because if they can sear, it helps them stay whole too. If you start moving them around right away, a lot of the juices will come out. And so you kind of want to let them hang for a moment before you start mixing them in with the onions and the chilies. And then once they do, and you can kind of see a nice mark on one of those tomatoes. And that flavor right there, just that seared piece on a tomato, is just, it's wonderful. And you can see those onions are really starting to cook now, and now really starting to shake it all together. I think I tried to attempt more of a wok toss, but I think I'm just too clumsy to. Yeah, and some of those YouTube videos I've watched, like they make it look super easy, and um, but yeah, so just want to continue mixing that egg and the onion, get it pretty well cooked before we add the egg. And those onions are looking pretty good. I mean, that right there is just a tasty dish in itself. Um, but yeah, we'll go ahead and add the egg now. And then just kind of start to mix that in, do a little light toss, and then start to break that egg up and mix it in with the vegetables. And the flavor, yeah, once again, as you saw, adding that little bit of sesame oil and that little bit of teriyaki, that little bit of flavor is just kind of sends this dish over the top. You don't want to put too much teriyaki, just a little to get a slight sweetness to it, and it goes really well with those tomatoes and the onions and the chilies. So now, just kind of let it sit for a second and go ahead and scoop up a bowl. And that is ready to eat. And I actually made this for dinner that night. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. So that was just kind of a basic wok dish. Yeah, I'll look to think of something else for November. Um, but yeah, thanks for joining me for something a little different. I hope if you've ever been curious about using a wok, that this may give you a little insight. And um, what I did here is super basic. I'm so far away from being an expert, but like not even close. I mean, I've been cooking with it for 2 months. So, but there's some other great tutorials out there, and I would definitely check out the School of Wok. Some real great recipes to pick up there, and just overall wok technique. But thanks for joining me this morning. This is a fun, different thing to do, and everybody take care out there. All right, have a good day.